Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and in this episode I'd like to speak about 3 divers. It happens to be that I have 3 very interesting divers in the house, and the first one I already presented on the channel, but it will play a role in this video again, and this is the Oris Bronze, the Oris Divers 65 Bico, which means steel and bronze. Love it. Then a friend of mine, not exactly well off, but has some money, but is not into watches, but he wanted a watch and he asked me for a recommendation. And he said he didn't want to spend that really big money on a Rolex or something like that. He wanted something substantial, something good looking, hassle-free. And then I showed him an image of the Baltic Aquascaphe. I don't even know if the word is French or English to be true. And so let's call the watch the Baltic Diver. He liked the watch pretty much and said, yeah, let's order this thing, and I did. And then I saw on the website of Polio24, Julian Kampmann, I saw that this Vostok with a blue dial, this diver with a blue dial, is in stock again. And I always liked the look of this watch. And so I asked Julian if he could borrow me one for 1 week. I will send this back. This is not an affiliate video. If he can borrow me the watch. And he did. Thank you very much, Julian. And then I realized that now we have a very interesting constellation here, because I have 3 divers from 3 very different countries: Switzerland, France, and Russia. And the movements are also very different from different countries. This is a Swiss-made Sellita, this is a Citizen-made or Japanese-made Miyota, and this is a Russian movement without a name, I think only a number, which I will edit in this video, of course, but I don't know the name of this movement, to be frank. And we have 3 very different price regions. This goes for about 1,800 euros in Europe. In US dollar, this is a smidgen under 2,000, I would say. The Baltic Diver, the price is 700 euros in Europe, and US price about 750 US dollars, I believe. And Julian Kampmann on Polio24 sells the Vostok for, I think, 119 euros. And so very different, thousands, hundreds, and roughly 100. And now we can compare. Now we can compare them, and this is very easy because same genre, same diameter. We're talking about 40 millimeters. Every watch here has 40 millimeters case diameter, and so very comparable. And now we can see in the lightbox what money can do. And to be frank, I like them all. I like them all. If you know Caseback watches, then you know that I'm not a watch snob. I can really enjoy pricey watches, really, I admit that. But I can really enjoy also the affordable things. I mean, at the end, it's like a car. I'm not really into cars, but even I enjoy the ride in a new Mercedes-Benz where everything is so polished and smooth and the sound is great. But the funniest car I ever sat in was a VW Beetle from the 60s. Colleague of mine was the driver, and to be frank, the thing was a complete wreck. There was a hole in the floor covered a little bit with rubber, and he passed every big puddle like that. But the sound was insane. And then I was under the impression of very high speed because of the sound. And then I thought, what's the idiot doing? We're in the middle of the city here. And I checked the tachymeter, and it was like 60, 65 kilometers per hour. So everything fine. But this was really a fun car. Or take, I own this Polio alarm, and it makes on the wrist, and it's also a really funny watch. And so my view is, if you own watches, you should own a luxury watch and a cheap, affordable thing when it makes fun, only when it's fun to wear and it offers something. Okay, but now let's go in the lightbox, and now let's check our 3 divers. And let me tell you a little bit about every watch, only 2 or 3 sentences. This is a watch from this very popular series of 65 divers from Oris, and this is the bronze. This is the Bico. So we have steel and bronze, so this is a speciality, but the other features are very often seen on divers in this price range. And what I love here is the spectrum of colors. The spectrum of colors, this bronze tone plays with the dark blue of the dial, and of course that it evolves some sort of patina, very limited as you can see, but the overall look and the impact of this watch is just absolutely gorgeous. And the Baltic stands here for the product of a micro brand. But I really like this thing. I really like the brand. I've owned 2 Baltic watches, and I was always very satisfied with the overall quality and especially the design, the look. And the last watch, the Vostok, love it or hate it. There are many people who say that this is too inexpensive, that this is basically junk. But on the other hand, you have many people who really like those watches. And the fascination for this is not founded on technology or some advanced quality. It's the look. It's absolutely the look. The thing looks, I don't know how to describe this, but it's absolutely distinctive and unique. You see Vostok, absolutely no question about that. And by the way, I played a lot cold waters in the last weeks and months, and there you can see all those Russian submarines, all those simulations, and there is this look, this Russian type of military design, which you also can find in this watch. And I think this is what people here really like. And so I can say every watch here is a recommendation. This is not a competition. I just want to demonstrate what you can expect for 119, 700 and 1,800 euros. And this I'm going to do right now. Let's start right away with comparisons of the first things we see now on these watches here, the crystal. And so let's begin with a more expensive one, sapphire crystal, and relatively high domed, as you can see here. Relatively high domed sapphire crystal, and it's with an anti-reflective coating. And so in certain lights or in certain conditions, you don't see anymore the crystal. You really see the dial. It's very present. The colors are very, very present then. And this type of crystal is the most expensive crystal on the market. Now let's go to the second watch. Let's go to our Baltic. This is also a sapphire crystal. Also a sapphire crystal, but you see it's not that domed. And you might see that the coating is a little bit inferior. If you put those watches side to side, then I don't know if the camera can catch this, to be frank. This is always a tough thing to do. But I think you can see that the dial here is a little bit more present. And here now we have our Vostok, and this is a plexi. This is a plexi. I mean, a plexi is a high respected thing if you want to create a vintage inspired watch, which this is. So it's nothing wrong wearing a plexi. Many people love plexis, in fact, because they don't need any coating. They have this quality that you can see right through the material without so many reflections, as you can see here. And so there we see clearly a difference, which will affect the retail price of the watch, of course. I mean, the price for this crystal here might represent the entire value or the entire price of the Vostok. The next thing we see is the dial. Let's begin again with the expensive or relatively expensive Oris Divers 65 here. And you see this is a blue, dark blue dial with a very nice glossy finish. Old radium lume, massive portion of lume, and very advanced indices. Here you can see really attention to detail. You see those golden lines which frame the indices, which frame the lume of the indices. You see a well-placed date window, and you see the Oris logo and some information about waterproofness. And you see overall a very high quality, very hard to manufacture dial. The same thing you see here. I mean, those styles are relatively similar, as you may notice here. But I think the differences are visible now. There's a lot of going on this dial. It really pops, all those little details. And this is a little bit more subtle. It's not so spectacular like this style, although there are not more, let's say, ingredients in it. But I feel that the design here is a little bit more, fast forward and has more impact in my eyes. Although both are very beautiful watches, but here I think on the dial you also can see a difference in manufacturing quality. And now let's go to our Vostok. If you have to make a dial on a budget, then it looks like this. It's a good looking combination here, the blue. This, I don't know how to call this blue exactly. It's very different, as you can see. It's brighter. There's some green in it, I feel, some green in that dial. But you can see overall it's more basic. It's more basic. You have those relatively standard build indices. You have a standard date window. And the texture, as you look very closely, is very different. It's very different. Here you can hardly see a texture. It's just the perfect thing. It's a little bit like if you want to compare your printer paper with the paper of a really, really good shop made for artists. The next thing we see or we use is the bezel, and now it's getting really interesting, the bezel. Here you have a 120 click bezel, unidirectional, and it feels substantial, it feels very precise, it feels, yeah, like a substantial tool really. Maybe you can hear it now better when I do this close to the microphone. And here you don't see imperfections. The little marker is exactly on the index, as you can see here. Or let's make a full round to the 12. Then you can see this is absolutely aligned. There is not a single imperfection. This is there. There's a very, very small tolerance. I think if you use a magnifier, then you can see small tolerances, but like that, it's perfect. Next watch then here is the Baltic. And now one reason why I like this brand so much, the bezel here, I mean, it's more basic, as you can see. I mean, here you have a mix of bronze and steel, which is a little bit harder to manufacture than steel and ceramic here. Is this ceramic or is this plastic? I think this is ceramic, feels ceramic-ish, but I have to check this. I forgot it, to be frank. But the feel of the thing is insane. It's so, I don't know how to describe this. You need a little bit more force. And it feels as there is no tolerance at all. That it feels like there's metal on metal and between them is nothing, absolutely nothing. And as you can see, the marker is exactly on the index, and there's no play at all. This thing feels so tight. This is one of the, best bezels, best moving bezels I've ever seen. Unidirectional too, and with 120 clicks, and they are insane. Hear that? Dat. Very, very cool. Very cool. This is an aspect I really like on this watch here. And if you do this on a budget, then you have the Vostok, and this is a one-click bezel. You can just move it. You can just move it like that in both directions. And you feel there's no play. It's relatively well made, I must say. You don't feel something which could disturb you. There are no scratching sounds. And of course, you cannot judge now about the precision here. I mean, if you want that this is perfectly aligned, then you have to move it that way, right? And the winner in this category is the Baltic, in my eyes. Clearly the Baltic, if we speak about the functionality. I like the design more of this bronze. But the functionality of this thing here is absolutely insane. And now let's speak about the next important element, and this is certainly the crown. All three models have screw-down crowns. And two things. A good screw-down crown has quite some rounds to wind, right? It doesn't have, because it has to seal the watch perfectly, and so you need some thread to keep all the water away. And if you screw this thing here, then it feels really substantial. There's no play, and you can wind and wind. Now it's on the case. And so good substantial quality, absolute good substantial quality. Same thing here. Same thing here. Focus, please. Feels exactly the same. Exactly the same. I need some rounds to close it entirely. And now it's closed. And if you have to do this on the budget, then you feel that the crown is loose, a little bit loose. So this is an entirely other system. You have your rounds here, and I think the thing works. This will seal the watch. It will keep all the water away. But what's very weird is the construction of the stem. And if this is the first Vostok you see in a review, then you will be astonished, because now I'm just going to show you something which I haven't seen on other watches. The crown is completely loose. See this? It's completely loose crown. And this disturbs people. Then they think, oh my God, the watch is broken. It's not. It's not broken. But you feel clearly that this is a different construction, and the prices are very different. And now we could speak about the manufacturing quality of the cases, but at my eyes this makes no sense. Maybe this is a little bit more basic, but even here you see a flawless case. And I think the reason is that a case nowadays is manufactured by a CNC robot and not anymore by any sort of handwork. And so even if you see a cheap watch, then you see in most cases a perfect case. In most cases a perfect case. What a stupid sentence. But this is exactly it. If you decide now, I found my own watch brand and I have a budget for every watch, let's say 200 US dollars or 200 euros, then you can order from the factory your case and they will deliver it in perfect quality. Okay, next thing what we have to keep in mind is the movement. In this watch is a Sellita movement, so a Swiss-made movement. In this watch works a Miyota, so a Japanese movement, and then this a Russian movement. And they feel very different, they are very different. And let's start with the Oris. And this movement provides hand winding. Position 1 is the date, as you may see. And you may see that it's hackable because in position 2, the second hand stops and you can set the time now. This feels very substantial. You have no play between crown and hands. Very substantial. Let's see how the date changes if this is precise. And you see, you can say right now it is exactly at midnight you have the date. So very high quality movement, offers a power reserve over 40 hours, and so everything's fine with that thing. The rotor is relatively substantial. You can feel it, you can hear it a little bit if you shake the watch, but without rattling sounds as you can hear them from cheaper watches. And now let's check the Miyota, way more affordable than Sellita or ETA, and so you can find it in many micro brands. It has hand winding as well. Position 1 is for setting the time. Hackable, as you may notice, the second hand has stopped. And now you can set the time, and it feels slightly lightweight, slightly like you have a little bit of play between crown and movement, and so you can feel this is might be a good movement, but you can feel it's not exactly on the level of Sellita. This clearly is a more affordable movement than this, and the rotor you can feel on this watch as well. Very good. Very good, I must say. It's like an old Valjoux 7750. There is really some power behind it, but without disturbing noises. And now let's go to the Russian movement. This is an automatic movement and it offers a power reserve of 31 hours and it's relatively slow with 19,000 beats. This is rare nowadays. And the movement has a reputation as a fairly robust workhorse, and so no problem at all. And it offers hand winding as well, but you have to pull slightly the crown, that the crown grabs the mechanism, and then you can wind it. And with position 1, there is only one position, you can set the time. This feels okay, but again, you have to pull slightly the crown. If the crown is like that, then you can just screw it and you can just turn it and nothing happens here. Let's check how the date's changing. Yeah, very good. Clock exactly at midnight, so no problem. Absolutely no problem. The feel here is different. The feel is really different. So you have a slight play between crown and hands, but yeah, it's not dramatically. It's not a really astonishing. The real astonishing feature here is this. Is really this. And if you have your first Vostok, then relaxed. This is completely normal. The next feature we can discuss are straps and bracelets. And the quality of Oris bracelets is absolutely top-notch in my eyes. The functionality is there and you don't see much stretch here, but it's of course it is a relatively new watch. But the clasp and all those features are well made without any tolerances, and yeah, just works fine. I've never had an issue with this type of Oris bracelets and I'm very happy with this. And here you clearly can see that the manufacturer wanted a high-class bracelet without any hassle for the buyer. And here's the next one. Here is the 700 euro Baltic on a rubber strap. This is of course very different, but we can learn something here as well. As you can see, relatively well-made rubber strap with a nice texture. It feels more like a fabric than rubber. More like a fabric than rubber. But you see here clearly very basic clasp. With this thing you really can cut costs. What I don't like so much is this end. It's very thin here. Can you see this? Very thin. And if you put it on the wrist, I will do this in a second, but I can show you this like without putting it on the wrist. There you can see that this look is a bit weird. It's a bit weird that this end here is so narrow. This is a little bit weird in my eyes, but this is not a quality thing. This is a design thing, I think. And if you see the Vostok here, the bracelet, then this is, I would say, this is psycho technology from the 80s. In that same feel, absolutely same feel. It's relatively tight. You have to use some force to open it. So it does the job, I think. It really does the job. It has a security clasp here, so nothing wrong with that bracelet. You will not lose your watch using that bracelet, but you can see and you can feel and you can hear clearly the differences in price when it comes to bracelets. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now I need an old Rolex bracelet from the 80s. It's more like this than like this. And I think now let's put all those watches on the wrist, and then you can see the overall look. This is way too big for my wrist, this bracelet. But never mind, I think you can see how it looks like on a 17-centimeter wrist. And I must say, I really like the look. I really like the colors. I really like the red and the special blue. And the size for my wrist, you see, is perfect. Absolutely perfect. And now let's go to the Oris Divers. And as you can see, the color spectrum of the watch matches kind of my natural skin tone. And so I really like this watch. It's one of my favorite watches. And so let's go to the last one. There is the Baltic, 40mm Baltic on my wrist with a rubber strap. And again, I really like that look. I really like that watch. Absolutely, sits perfect on the wrist. It's very comfortable, but you can see here what I mean with this, how do you call this, tapered end of the strap. I wouldn't replace it. It's not that bad, but I think I have to mention it. Okay, wow, really good watch. Do I have to give this back? Yeah, I think so, right? I think so. Really cool thing. Okay, welcome back. I hope you found this interesting. I personally have learned a lot in this video by doing the research, by handling those watches, and so it was a pleasure to present you those 3 divers. And if you want to see more images of watches, handicraft, tailoring and other things I find interesting, then please follow me on Instagram. It's caseback_Tim. And now let me thank you very much for your attention, and maybe until next time.